Hey again. It is June 19th. It just hit about 7 p.m. It's, a little bit later in the afternoon. And I don't know. Didn't really feel like doing anything else, so I just felt like taking a walk. Had a few things to talk about, I guess. Been doing some more gardening yesterday. It was pretty damn hot yesterday. And it's pretty hot today, but it's much cooler right now since it's much later in the day, obviously, but still pretty warm. But it's comfortable for me, at least to an extent. I wouldn't want to be sitting in the sun for hours on end. I'd be quite baked. But what did I do? I dug some stuff, some like weeded area in our front yard, just under the kitchen windowsill. Dug that up. Well, it definitely wasn't easy. Digging the soil up wasn't hard, but getting the weeds up was pretty bad. It was pretty difficult. But that pickaxe, mattock, whatever you want to call it, that thing really definitely works wonders compared to any other gardening tool I've really used. So definitely like that thing. And I planted some rhubarb seeds in a few sections in that area. Just because I was reading a thing on how to plant those things from seed, and it said something about soaking them in water for a few hours, which made sense, so I did that first and planted them and stuff. I don't know how it'll go, but, worst case, that area is no longer covered in weeds for now, and I could just plant anything else that I want to there, so that's nice. Wow. I don't know what kind of... Holy crap. I don't know what kind of construction they're doing over here, but they got a big-ass tractor machine over there, like half the size, or half the height and width of, like, a house. Damn. Jeez. Yeah, I don't know what renovations they're doing, but holy crap. And yeah, as you can see, I'm wearing different attire than I've normally wore because I got some new clothes recently. I don't know. My mom was being a pain in the ass about it. I was like, all right, well, I know you. Even if I say no, you're gonna buy something, and then I'm not even gonna like it. So fine, I'll go with you to buy clothes. So I was like, all right. So I bought some stuff, a few shirts, a few pairs of shorts and stuff like that. None of my other shorts were fitting anymore. They were either too stretched out or just, since I lost so much weight, they a while ago they just hadn't been fitting for like years at this point. So I was like, all right, screw it. But pretty comfortable so far. Weird with this shirt. It smells like, I know it's like some kind of artificial smell or something like that, like almost like from the manufacturing process or something, but I kind of like it. Weirdly enough, this initial smell, it smells like it almost, I was like, do I smell cucumber? It smells kind of like cucumber. Kind of weird. But besides all that, something I was going to, or at least I had some thoughts on my head, and I was like, I guess I could talk about something like this. He'd made a few videos in this series recently, Stardust Simulation, Billy. First, he made one video saying where his recent subscriber numbers came from, I guess, and I might as well answer that question. I got, not so much recommended, but the channel that I was subscribed to before that, Post Nostalgos, he mentioned your channel, or mentioned something about your channel, like a topic that you mentioned and stuff, so I was like, alright, I'll look it up, and then I was like, alright, subscribe to this guy and all that, and listen to some of his stuff. Seems interesting within topic enough of what I'm interested in, and the reality thing, that kind of frequency and all that. So that's where I came from, to his channel. That's how I got onto his channel. Second thing, you mentioned in, oh yeah, what was it? One of your videos talking about the basically, stop working jobs, essentially. You mentioned things that you wanted to do, like how you got into stuff like landscaping, not because you wanted to or it was something you were passionate about, but just because in your situation you were in, that was just kind of what you were at the time, what you were learning and what you were skilled in, I guess, at the time. So that was just sort of happened as it did. Which, makes sense. But one thing that I was wondering, and I don't know if you'll answer this question, if you want to answer this question, just out of curiosity, like, you were into, like, painted art and stuff like that, designs and art, painting on a canvas and stuff like that. That's, like, something you are passionate about and you like doing. Just out of curiosity, I kind of look at, say, gardening or landscaping to some extent. I guess depending on what kind of like with cooking, like there's so many different subgroups of cooking in a way, subcategories, whatever, that fall under that. I guess the same thing could be said for something like landscaping. Did you never view something like landscaping or gardening or whatever you want to call it, that kind of thing? Whatever you do, I know from what it seems like mostly what you do is stuff like cutting people's lawns. That's probably what the bulk of the work kind of comes down to, I guess. At least that's the stuff that I've ascertained from some of your talks about your work and stuff. It sounds like it's mostly that kind of landscaping, like cutting grass and shit. But I'm surprised you never kind of made that, or at least I don't know. You from your videos, it seems like you never made that connection or correlation that, at least from what I'm thinking, that couldn't you incorporate art into your current trade, your landscaping? Like, I think landscaping and gardening can be an art form, if you know what I mean. And I'm sure you know what I'm trying to say here. Just kind of curious why that wouldn't be something you try to retrofit to your interest or whatever, like using the land or the landscape that you're working on or working within, or just in general using that as a skill as your canvas, just like I view that game that I like to mod, or I did like the mod and I still do, but haven't really been doing much of that recently. Even though I still want to, it's just I view that whenever I see that game, or whenever I see how that game kind of works and its systems, I view it like that game world. The way that specific game, I look at it more as a canvas to be painted on, not so much the game itself. I'm like, this is a blank canvas to have other things put onto it, to have other things painted onto it. That's how I kind of view it. So I'm wondering, in your case, how come it seems like you don't necessarily have that much interest, more so in the painted, like the literal painted cloth canvas, whatever you want to call it, compared to just, say, incorporating the two, or like putting them together, like using landscaping as a art form, or gardening as an art form, and possibly incorporating that as a business. Because I guarantee, even though I'm sure you already have enough work and clientele in your current thing, but seems like that that would go pretty hand in hand in a way, is that doing that actively to both express yourself and your passion, as well as providing that service to people, say, I don't know, beautifying their canvas, their house, their property or whatever, with I don't know what, plants, gardens, whatever, like just making the grass look especially nice, or looking in a specific way, or putting patterns in it, or something like that. You know what I mean. But I'm just curious why it seems like you haven't really looked at it in that way, or at least you haven't like talked about it in that way. It's because it seems like it would be a good opportunity to mix the two together in a way. Just a thought. But on that same topic, the thing I wanted to talk about, the doing your own business thing, and not working these jobs or working for other people kind of crap. You know what? I'm going to pause, and I will collect my thoughts on exactly what I wanted to say, so I will be right back. Alright, I think I kind of got an idea what I'm going to talk about. Kind of. So, about the about how life for the majority of people, and maybe just everybody in general, I guess, the way that you talked about it, and I really have a hard time disagreeing with you, in all honesty. It's just something I wanted to discuss, or I guess talk about. I'm not really just talking into my phone, discussing anything with anybody. But alright, here's a nice shady spot. Nice shady spot. But yeah, so like, I think that is completely true for the vast, overwhelming majority of people, is that their employment, their career, their job, and as well as even the people that are self-employed, their business, it is not a means, it is not just a means to living their life, quote unquote, especially the people that are not self-employed, which it really is just their life, but they occasionally have these little moments of respite between that, which some people would say, oh, well, that's living their life. Well, it's like, not really. The vast majority of the time, you are living your job. That is your life. But then with the people that are self-employed, it's kind of the same deal, but their business, or whatever, their thing that they have they put all their efforts into, they put their stake into, that business or whatever, that becomes their life, essentially. That consumes the majority of their existence, and their thoughts is on that thing, and maintaining that thing or whatever. That becomes their life. But one could say that, at least for probably much more, the vast majority, not saying all of them, but the vast majority, with a little bit of self-awareness, they probably say, well, shit, I would much rather do this for my life, working for myself or whatever, not working for somebody else, owning this thing, rather than having somebody working as Stardust Simulation calls it, working as a proxy for somebody else, for their business, so they can do their own thing instead of spending all their time doing that thing or whatever. They're working as a proxy for them. And I could see this. I mean, you could see this in anybody, but I could see it in my own parents, or at least, yeah, especially in my dad's case, because he works full time, obviously, not just part time. My mom works part time and all that, but my dad works full time. He has for 40 whatever years at this one company, and end of the day, yeah, they make ends meet and all that crap. They make, over that time, they've made pretty okay money. They haven't spent that money very wisely, which is it's their fault at the end of the day that's the case. But he's been working for somebody else for all that time, but his life becomes completely consumed by that thing. I think my dad was a pretty good dad. I'm not even going to really say, all things considered. I mean, I will, because that is true. All things considered, I think my dad was a very good dad, compared to so many others that I've seen, that I've observed with people that I've interacted with. I've seen, their fathers, their parents, and most of it, they're pretty, maybe not all of them bad fathers, I would say, but definitely not that great, I would say, from my own perspective, from my comparison. So I think my dad's been a pretty good dad and everything, and I think he's been involved in my life a pretty good amount, considering how much he has worked, how much time he spent at work. So yeah, but then I think about it, and I'm like, yeah, the vast majority of his time, it seems, is spent either being at work, preparing for work, and talking about work, kind of stuff. Any topic that is talked about, it always kind of pertains to his job in some way, because what else does he do? What else does he do? What else does he really have time to do? He's either sleeping, working, or having that little amount of, respite time between those hours. So, what else does he have to talk about? That is his life. Which I guess is the case for basically everybody that works one of these jobs. That's how it just becomes their whole. Not even necessarily the social network that they're in, the social group. It becomes those people that they work with, because who else, what time do they have or whatever to go out and make other social connections, really, besides maybe with their immediate family and stuff. Really, none. So their whole world literally does become the place that they work at. And this is why I find it kind of funny that almost all these relationships kind of start at the workplace in some way, especially not just quote unquote friendships and stuff like that, but just intimate relationships, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, that kind of crap. So much of it starts at work, because you're just kind of by definition or whatever, you are stuck with those people for the amount of time, most of the time, that you are at work, which is most of your life for these people and stuff. So it's by osmosis, they kind of have to be constantly interacting in some way. They're the people that they see even more than their own family in some cases. Doesn't mean that they necessarily like them or anything, but they just kind of have to make do with it. And, make do and be friendly. Or not, be accommodating to that. But yeah, like that's what I noticed with my dad, and I've noticed that I could see the same exact connection with everybody else that works at these kind of jobs for their whole lives, basically. Like that consumes their life, that becomes their life. Whereas to me, that is not something I would want to do, in which, obviously, with my own failed kind of foray into the kind of normal jobs ecosystem or whatever, like the few years that I was working a few different jobs and stuff, I could just tell that it wasn't a fit for me. It just wasn't a fit for me at all. Like it never felt like something I was like, there's no way I could do this like these other people for like 40 years, 50 years until I'm in the ground kind of crap. Like there's no way. So in that sense, I know that I would have to be on the more entrepreneur or kind of start your own business kind of thing, which is like, hey, fair enough. And I completely agree with almost all the points that you that I'm talking specifically to start a simulation here with his videos on the stop working your jobs, or stop working these jobs or whatever kind of thing. But I've thought about it, obviously. I've had multiple different ideas. Ideas don't mean shit, but I've had multiple different ideas for what I would possibly do in this case. Various things that I've thought about. And more recently, I started getting into more cooking and baking, as well as recently, even more recently than that, gardening and stuff. And that's kind of that's what I mentioned on one of your other videos. I don't know if it was in the same series or what. I don't think it was, but it was in one of your other videos that you talked about stuff similar to this. I was talking about starting my own bakery kind of thing. And I've since, thought about it and kind of slowed down on the initial push, that feeling of like, all right, this is like a great idea or whatever kind of crap. Getting out of that, what would you call it, that honeymoon period where I was just thinking about, oh yeah, how great the idea is kind of crap. But I was like, okay, I'm probably not going to immediately, especially not immediately, start up my my own brick and mortar bakery or whatever kind of crap. It's most likely going to, at the very least, start very small and, start as a something that doesn't even have a LLC attached to it, just kind of thing. Just selling a service, selling a product out of our house or whatever, out of the house. So, that's the initial thing and I haven't really even been thinking about, oh yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to bring up with that, is that it's weird in my situation, thinking about starting your own business kind of shit. Because obviously the idea with the business thing is that it's a business because you probably want to make you probably want to sell something, make a product that people will buy, or you transact with something, either currency or barter or whatever, which just kind of comes as an obvious thing, I guess. an obvious part of the connection, the relationship, whatever, the idea of a business and all that, is that you want to make some kind of profit and all that shit. But me, at least for now, recently, I know you, Billy, have never probably been in this situation, or have very rarely been in this situation where money was never, tight for you, or money was never tight, kind of thing. You weren't kind of just fighting for a place to sleep at the end of the day, kind of shit. To keep yourself from being homeless and all that. But I've been in the situation myself where I live with my parents. I've had a good enough relationship with my parents or whatever, and I decided, I was like, hey, well, why the hell am I going to try and move out if they'll just let me live with them? Screw it. I'm not going to pursue that. I'm not going to be influenced by that stupid American mentality of, you have to strike out on your own kind of thing, like right away, fuck yourself over to pursue some fake American dream or whatever. So I was like, to me at least, I took the logical approach. I said, hey, well, why don't I just stick with my parents while I'm able to? Why not? And that's what I've been doing. But the other thing that comes with this is that I don't really, right, like me, I'm not 100% neat in terms of, like, I don't have any money, because I do. As I said, I worked for a few years, so I was getting paid pretty well in most of the jobs. For the most part, I was getting paid in. I didn't spend that much of my money at the time. I was fairly conservative with it and all that. I was never that kind of, usually not that kind of vain of a person or anything, to just be spending my crap, my money, on frivolous things most of the time. You realize when you're working, you kind of think to yourself, at least this is what I noticed, you think to yourself, like, man, why am I even working if I'm not even spending this shit that I'm working for? I'm going through this misery for. So you just kind of you'd go out of your way to spend on stupid shit just to feel like some kind of justification, like, okay, I'm doing it. This is totally worth it. This thing that I just spent money on. This is totally worth all that heartache and all that bullshit. And it basically it never is. But with that, I do have my own stash of money from that time. So I do have some money. So I'm not completely SOL if something happened. I don't know if that's a baby or a goat. I don't think we have any goats around here, so it's a weird sounding baby. But yeah. So I'm in that situation, but then it's like, when I think about the starting my own business kind of thing, I think of, I don't think of just the roses and the flowers and roses, or whatever, the gumdrops and roses of it. I also think of it reasonably, and I say, there's many, many, many downsides and negatives that come with this. So I have, thought about those things. But those things, they kind of, they come out more than the positives, because I think about it, I'm like, well, there are many positives that aren't just money related, but then I'm like, well, a lot of it is supposed to be about the money, end of the day, or like the transaction kind of part of it. But then I think, well, I'm like, in the situation I'm in, I don't have that much of a use for money. So it's not something that is like immediately something I need or I will be on the streets kind of shit. So it is not like an immediate necessity sort of thing. So I just see the negatives and I'm just like, well, why am I going to do that when I could just do what I'm doing now, kind of just doing it for recreation kind of thing, which I don't think there is any issue with, and that's probably what it will be for a while here. End of the day, like in all reality. But I just kind of think like, well, outside of that, why would I want to start a business? But I guess that's the audience that Billy is talking to in this case is those that are not in my situation, that are in that situation, that if they don't work right now or if they don't make money right now, then they will be not in a comfortable situation kind of deal. So I'm probably barking up the wrong tree here and trying to perceive something that is completely not even in the group that the message is kind of intended for. Not even necessarily the message, but the kind of thing the people, the audience that's intended for. Because me, like, I thought about the bake shop thing, and I'm just like, man, I like baking, but then I know at the end of the day, most of the baking that I would be doing for other people would be stuff that wouldn't be that interesting, most likely. It would be kind of like mundane stuff, like cakes for birthdays, with like various like mundane designs and shit like that. Not these kind of like experimental things. That's not necessarily true that would be the case, but most of it would be. I can guarantee the majority would just be that kind of like mundane stuff. And then also considering that that part, but also the fact that it's like, well, when I do baking just for myself, for the recreation of it kind of thing, as well as just producing it for myself and my family or my whatever people that I have relations with, there's really no pressure to like rush or that it needs to be done or whatever. Like if I started my own business, then at least if I wanted to be consistent and actually satisfy whatever customers, then I would have to be on somewhat of a schedule, as well as I would have to take orders that orders from people that, by orders not necessarily like them bossing me around, but take orders for like baked goods or whatever that I might not want to make, or deal with the person that I don't want to deal with kind of shit. And, you could always just say no to those people. That's one thing. But then if you say no to everybody, then you won't have any customers, and then it's just your business isn't really a business anymore. So then I thought about it. I was like, well, one thing that I will probably try to do eventually, and I've thought about it, that might be kind of fun, would be fun and educational or engrossing, whatever you want to call it, would be baking stuff and then just kind of like giving it away in a sort of charitable way, I guess you could say, like just sort of baking stuff for the fun of it, but then kind of just using it as a way to network with people in a way, like as a way to network. Yeah. Like say go to the mall and just kind of like not so much cold call, but just go up to people and just go up to people that are just doing nothing in their storefronts, which is like the vast majority of people at these malls are just sitting there, literally doing nothing. That's their job, just filling a space. Oh God, what a horrible job that is. But and just be like, hey, you want to try this thing that I made or whatever, that kind of thing, and then just have a conversation or try to strike up a conversation from that kind of deal. Go to libraries, go to whatever, that kind of thing. I'm not sure how that would go. I'm sure it would go fine, end of the day. But The only thing the only issue with that for me is that when I think about it, I'm like, well, I like making these things, but at the same time, it does suck. You wanna at least cover the cost. And Billy mentioned this with the art stuff. You at least want to cover the cost of what you're doing, so you don't have to be concerned about like, okay, this thing is draining me financially, sort of deal. Just to do this thing. But with everything, there's always an initial cost in some form, be it time or whatever. So that's probably a logical fallacy in itself when I think about it, an excuse in a way. But I probably will do that initially. That's what I thought about, at least. As a sort of advertising vehicle and a networking vehicle, and a way to socialize a bit, kind of deal. At least that's the idea. And it could be fun and all that, but yeah, that's like one of the things I've thought about for that. But yeah, that's like the main thing that just kind of comes down is like, I know how mundane most of the work would be at the end of the day. Like I would have to come in at times that I don't want to necessarily come in, like early, depending on what kind of business you're looking for, I guess you could say, like the early people or the later people, that kind of thing. But it's difficult to think of that as something that I would want to necessarily define as my life, which, even though I do it as a hobby and stuff, I still do other things that I like to do, like the gardening and stuff. So, but, by definition, most of your time being spent with that thing, even if you try not to define it as that, is probably more of probably more of a silly thing to think like, oh yeah, because it basically, just like your job, it just becomes your life anyway. But yeah, it's just something that I thought about. I think I had more things to talk about, and I probably will still think about a little bit here, just to see if I could get it jostled out before I end the video. But yeah, it's definitely something that I know I'm going to pursue and all that. At some point, it just depends when. But right now, it's one of those things where it just doesn't feel like the motivation isn't really there. Not so much the motivation that I don't think it'd be enjoyable to do and engrossing and all that, but the motivation and where I'm like, well, having the market stuff sucks. Like, you never really like at least me, I don't find the marketing aspect and the selling aspect of something that particular. I can do it. I know how to do it for the most part, but I don't find it that enjoyable. It's just kind of like something that you have to do in the process. I mean, I guess it's the same thing with anything. Like, I don't particularly like digging ditches or digging up weeds in gardening. I don't particularly enjoy that aspect of it. But it's kind of it's getting through those difficult parts, those not so fun parts, that kind of defines how really passionate, how much you really care for that thing enough to go through that toil, those parts of it. And if you're not willing to do that, then you might not care about it as much as you say or as much as you think. So I guess, that's just kind of part of it, I guess. And maybe I can just make it a kind of like a semi-charitable thing at the end of the day, non-profit kind of thing. There's no reason I can't really do that. There's plenty of non-profits out there, and it's not because I'm some ultra charitable, caring person necessarily. I'm not saying that I'm not, but I'm not like, that's not the reason. That it's just kind of one of those things where I don't necessarily like the financial transaction aspect of the entire thing. I think it's more, for the sake of the enjoyment of the activity, as well as the enjoyment that it gives others, the reactions that you get from others from enjoying whatever you've made, kind of thing. The art aspect of it, I guess you could say, if you don't have a better word for it. But yeah, I don't know. Just kind of a long ramble there. Not that it's like super hot. Like, it's not. It's pretty comfortable right now, but I'm just getting a little bit a little bit tired, yapping my gums right at this moment, but I'm almost home. So I think that's all I can think of saying right now. So if anybody watches this, I don't know if you find it interesting. But yeah, thanks for listening, and take care.